Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more. You are tuned into the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely want to interact with you. So make sure to swing on over to odphpodcast.com. Join the conversation on the social media accounts. They're all right there on the front page, along with the TeePublic store link, which is always a good, it's a holiday time. If you want to get somebody a special gift, what better way to hook them up than go to TeePublic and go get some ODPH swag?
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, we got our top sellers right now in a TikTok video going around too. So if you need those ideas, we have them for you. And it's very reasonable price. And man, I'll tell you what, they'll be very happy when you do. Just saying. Also, on the front page, you can check out the Patreon link. Shout out to all our amazing patrons. One tier, $2 a month, and a lot of content on the way. Thinking about what we're going to do for December. I have a rough idea, Pat. Keeping it a secret right now, but we're going to do something special. Parlay Club coasters went out to our amazing patrons. I can't say thank you enough to them as well. You can find them. They're right there on the front page, too. There's a link. It'll take you right to them. You can go follow all of them, support them. They're amazing people. Also, you can check out the blog section of Parlay Points. You can go check out the classified section, which has friends of the show such as 3FN, Dragon Master Games, organizational link support and Black Lives Matter. A lot of great information is on there as well, too. And you can check out the directory, which, Pat, how many providers are we on?
130,000.
Sounds about right to me, so I am not going to fact check that. I'm going to trust Pat 100% about that. And for anything else that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. And remember on social media to use the hashtag ODPHpod. Kicking off this edition of the entertainment show, we have to recap a show that put everybody in the holiday spirit. It was one that we weren't sure what we were going to get exactly out of it, other than fun.
Yeah.
And we were graced with the latest addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because it's all connected. And that was the return of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
And also James Gunn's penultimate foray into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right, before he does the monster renovation of DC films.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that he has in the works right now, I'm just going to put it out there. If we get Kingdom Come, I am going to mark out like a madman. Like, it might get out of control on the show. Just going to say that. I know he teased the photo today, Pat.
Right.
I'm trying to remain calm about that because I digress. I don't want to get off on a tangent. Because I want to talk about what he gave us, and that was the holiday special. So what better way to get into the MCU Christmas spirit, so to speak, than seeing what the Guardians are up to with a crazy plot idea and something that just really fits that vein of what we know to come and love from the Guardians.
Yeah.
So that being said, if you're new to the ODPH, first and foremost, thank you for checking us out. We do appreciate it. We are going to give you a spoiler-free statement about the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. So if you haven't seen the episode yet and you don't want to get spoiled, it's cool. But when you hear a countdown, after that, we're going into spoiler talk. So consider yourself fair warned. If you need to duck out then. Otherwise, stay for the conversation because we're going to take a deep dive into this latest episode. So that being said, Pad, what's your spoiler-free statement on the Guardians special? I
thought it was fun. I was expecting a little bit more, for a holiday special. But all things considered, for Marvel's second holiday special, I guess you could say, because the first one was Werewolf by Night, which was for Halloween. But for their first holiday special, I thought it was fun. I thought it was nice, about clocked in at about 45 minutes, 50 minutes, right around the right amount of time for most television holiday specials, if you really think about it. But no, it was fun.
A wonderful kickoff to the holiday season. I thought this really captured the energy of the Guardians, obviously with James Gunn back at the helm. It was going to have that same vibe, and that's something you can't replace. Like, this is what we've come to know and love with the Guardians. This played right into the vein. It gave away some things that we're going to be expecting in season or episode 3, or volume 3, I should say.
Sure.
I lose track of how they define it, but in the third Guardians film, to get real technical. But it really captured everything you liked about it. It was just a short, fun trip. Nothing really over the top, but it was enough to be an enjoyable viewing experience for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And now I got some questions about where we're going to go after here. So we'll have to kind of deep dive into that when we get into that spoiler talk. So that being said, in 3, 2, 1, Pad, what did you really think?
Like I said, I thought it was fun. The premise was nice with Quill missing the holidays and being away from home, being away from Earth, and Christmas time, and he kind of feels like he's the only one who celebrates Christmas. So you get Mantis and Drax, Mantis dragging Drax is what it felt like to me, along to kind of cheer Quill up, and then the antics that ensue. It was fun. I enjoyed it for what it was. Certain moments, it honestly felt like it could have been longer. Maybe that's just my experience with the Guardian stuff. I felt like it should have been longer, but in terms of holiday specials, it was the right length of time.
When we start dabbling into this new area of special presentations, like that's what the official term is for them. It's sort of like how pay-per-views are now premium live events. When we start dealing in this area, we got to kind of get used to the short one-and-dones. But I think for doing the Guardians in this vein, and obviously with the controversy that happened with James Gunn getting removed originally from the project, now he's coming back.
Yep.
And all that drama from past tweets and all that nonsense, to now he's getting a chance to give a couple farewells to the fans before he goes to DC. And obviously, he's going to close the chapter on the Guardians. I don't expect to see them around after the third volume. So,
not in that current lineup.
No, I think they're going to definitely do a big switch up if they decide to do it again. I wouldn't doubt seeing Nova getting added to the lineup of Richard Rider. But I don't know anything official. I'm just kind of spitballing a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where they're going to go, because obviously the franchise is making too much money.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a smart business move to do this. And if you can have everybody come in, do a quick gap in between the film, because we still don't really have a concrete date for Guardians 3.
Right. And the last time we saw them was at the beginning part of Thor Love and Thunder.
Right. So a lot has been going on with them. And where we pick up this episode, they have now acquired Nowhere.
Yeah.
The kind of lost area in space that we did see in Guardians 1.
Yep.
And they now have acquired it. We'll just put quotations around it.
Yeah.
From the collector.
We know they bought it. How they bought it, we don't quite know.
Yes. Well, that's the one thing about the Guardians is in space, it's kind of like the Walking Dead universe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that's a little gray.
It's the Wild West.
Considering, Earth standards.
Yeah.
So if they got to do a little mercenary work, they got to do a little thievery, so to speak, in space.
You scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole different world out there. Or galaxy, shall we say.
Yeah.
But still, that's where we get the point across that they've now acquired it, so now they have set up shop there. They do have what appears to be a new member in Cosmo the Space Dog.
Yeah, apparently he came with Nowhere.
Yes, which I'm all right with.
Yeah.
He's a very quirky character from the comics.
Yeah.
That is a dog with telekinesis.
Voiced by Maria Bakalova.
Yes. So that'll be a great addition to the cast, and especially in Volume 3. I think that they'll just be fun. But as we start progressing in this, we do get a little animation.
Yeah.
Explaining the backstory about how Peter Quill had Christmas ruined for him.
And if I read right, and I read it quickly last night as I was watching TV, it sounds like when they didn't just straight animate this scene. It sounds like, according to what James Gunn had said, they had filmed it and then used some sort of filming technique, animation technique that was used in a film from the 60s or 70s or something like that, and then converted it to animation. So this wasn't just, oh, hey, we called up Disney Animation Studios and had them animate this for us. No, they actually went about it, and it sounded really cool.
Yeah, it's something, it felt like a throwback. I almost want to say the video Aha Take On Me a little bit to a degree.
Yeah.
It's kind of that still picture animation. Obviously to a very lesser degree than the video was. But still, it portrayed the story because you're getting the narration from Kraglin, who's resumed the role from, or the actor coming back playing him is Sean Gunn.
Right.
And obviously he's telling the story about Peter Quill and Christmas getting ruined, and it's kind of making Yondu appear to be the Grinch.
Yeah.
And who is listening to this story? Mantis. So seeing her back, played by Pom Klementieff, it was a really cool treat to see because she is now sitting there knowing how sad Peter Quill is. Obviously, Gamora is gone, and he's just now not really in the spirit and missing home, as you touched upon. So she teams up with her partner in crime, Drax, played by the one Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
And they're going, okay, how are we going to have the Christmas spirit take over?
Looked it up quickly for the animation thing. So this is reading off an article from Collider.com. It says, quote, the image sees actors Michael Rooker and Luke Klein, who played Yondu and young Peter Quill, respectively, in full costume on the set of the holiday special. Rooker is holding the toy that Peter gifted him in the special, which acted as the central heart of the entire story. Fans might be surprised that Rooker and Klein physically acted out their scenes, but Gunn revealed that they used an old-school rotoscoping animation style that was heavily inspired by the classic Rankin/Bass Christmas specials of the 70s, 80s. That famous studio's legendary library includes a Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
Interesting.
I thought it looked familiar.
Yeah, like I say, it definitely looked 80s to me.
Yeah.
And like I say,
awesome.
Nothing wrong with that. It's just a throwback, especially if you know Peter Quill.
Yeah.
He is a child of the 80s.
Big 80s guy.
So this played right into his vein, and obviously, if you're trying to tell the story about Peter Quill, you're going to tie it into the 80s. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it worked out, like I said, perfectly.
Yeah.
But then we have the pairing of Mantis and Drax, which we need more of this.
Yeah, we do.
Obviously, the chemistry they had on screen, they played the good cop, bad cop, so to speak, right down to the line, because they come up with the craziest scheme to bring Peter Quill the Christmas spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And Pat, what is that?
They're going to get in Kevin Bacon because he's talked about Kevin Bacon a lot.
Yes. They decide it's a good idea to go to Earth and get the one and only legend himself, Kevin Bacon, because Peter Quill always talks about how he's the hero of Earth and how...
Apparently, he was a real big Kevin Bacon movie fan growing up, and he's talked ad nauseum about Kevin Bacon and his exploits in those movies.
Yeah, because obviously you can tell back to Guardians 1 when he saves the world by dancing.
Yep.
Inspired by Footloose.
Well, and you can tell he's between that and then just throughout the special where both Mantis and Drax are reciting, let's just say cliff notes, spark notes of what happened in some of his movies. And it's like, okay, that's a little more detailed than just like, yeah, Peter give you a plot summary. No, Peter's told you like the whole story.
Yeah. So it's very funny to hear how this is all inspiring the plan to save Christmas, so to speak. But then we see Mantis and Drax arrive to Earth, right by the big Hollywood sign on the hills. Everybody's seen that sign.
Yep.
And then they go down to Hollywood to search for him.
Downtown LA into Hollywood.
Yes, they go right by
They're the Chinese Man's Theater, yeah.
Yeah, the legendary Man's Chinese Theater. And they get kind of roped into thinking, tourists are thinking they're part of the act.
So I have a question for you regarding this scene.
Okay.
Normally, under almost every television and movie production, when they go into a public place like this, they will pay the city to shut down the area where they need to film.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they shut down that part of LA for this, or did they just leave it open? Did they get permission to film? Because you need permission to film. Do you think they got permission to film and just left it open, or do you think they closed it down? Because there were some people reacting to that I'm like, I don't think those are actors. I think those are actual people reacting to the characters being there.
I don't think they asked for permission at all.
Okay.
I think they ran down there with cameras and just went.
Okay.
Until somebody came up and was like, what are you doing?
Because I got the vibe, especially with some of those folks and the way they were freaking out, it didn't feel like actors and actresses, acting. It felt like there were genuine, because the thing, if you don't know or you haven't seen outside of the Chinese theater in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, the characters there, that actually happens.
Yes.
There are people dressed up as characters from movies and video games and comics and whatnot that will stand in front of there to varying degrees of believability if they actually look like them or not, and will take a photo with you or your kids and charge you usually an exorbitant amount of money.
Yeah, be a little careful if you ever go down there.
Yeah.
That's our friendly advice.
Friendly advice, especially that happens in New York City, too.
Oh, my God, Times Square, yes.
They will charge you money for this. But so, like, I really think they might have just like, okay, we got permission to film in Los Angeles, but they didn't shut down the street because they wanted that authentic feel.
Oh, I guarantee you. James Gunn knew what he was doing here.
Yeah.
And I think that you want to get that genuine reaction of people freaking out that you're seeing Mantis and Drax in costume, because there is that little possibility it might not be them,
right?
And they're just going with it because reasons.
Yeah.
But they decide to obviously play into it, and we saw a really cool moment where Mantis thinks she sees Steve Rogers and tackles him, and the guy's like, "What are you doing?" And she's
he
like,
runs off.
She has no idea why, but then they're now getting paid for pictures, so she's acquiring a ton of money.
Yep.
And then we see Drax run into, I believe it was Iron Man.
Iron Man was there. Black Widow was there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he starts fighting the one because, like you say, he's just having flashbacks. Like he's thinking it's real, and it's just such a cool parody going on there that he's now just having all these like moments on Earth. But they wind up winning over the crowd. They wind up getting a lot of money, obviously going up and down the Walk of Fame too. And then they wind up going to a bar, which never goes well, even though, like I say, you have those little moments where it's just like, it's just being fun. And they're just obviously getting used to partying out a little bit in the Hollywood lifestyle. Fluta Borg was the bartender too. He's great. I always think he's hysterical. But during this whole montage, they find out the location of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, obviously using one of those great star maps.
Yeah, well, they go on the tour of the Hollywood houses or whatever it is. Like, you can go to L.A. and they will take you on the tour of the stars' homes. And I know Dwayne Johnson, wherever the hell he lives in Los Angeles, those things go by his house all the time. And he's got more than one video on his social media of him pulling up next to one of those buses and freaking them the hell out.
Yeah.
So that's what they do is they're sitting there lamenting that they don't know where Kevin Bacon is. And this woman who either knows somebody who works for the tour of the celebrity homes or works for the celebrity homes is like, I know where he lives. I can take you there. And that's when they go on. That's when they show the map with all the stars. Is they're taking the tour, and then they go, "Oh, hey, there's Kevin Bacon's house. We need to get off."
Yeah. So they wind up going to Kevin Bacon's home directly in Christmas time.
Nice home.
Oh yeah, very nice home,
Nice
and obviously decked out to the nines for the holidays. He's on the phone with his real life wife, Kira Cedric.
Yep.
And he's explaining, like, hey, I'll see you soon. And obviously he sees somebody at the door. He's ignoring them. He's like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
And not willing to take no for an answer, Mantis and Drax literally break into his house.
Well, yeah, and this is after like this whole back and forth with a Ring doorbell, which, gotta admit, my parents have a Ring doorbell. Was I hallucinating, or was his Ring doorbell like on the fucking ground?
Yeah.
Which is the weirdest place to put a Ring doorbell. But
That's a Hollywood thing.
Yeah, it could be. But yeah, so then they decide, Kevin Bacon's like, no, and then he finally quits answering. And then Mantis is like, well, we got to get in there. You're going to have to throw me over. And before she can even finish the sentence, Drax just hurls her over the door.
Yeah.
And she's like, why did you do that? Because you told me to throw you over the door. Well, I wasn't done explaining the plan yet. Don't throw you, make up your mind.
Yeah. So, like I say, their comedy was on point.
And I got to be honest, it was great, and I forgot that he takes things literally.
Yeah.
Because I'm laughing. I'm like, oh, right, he takes things literally. I had forgotten that because it had been so long since I've seen Guardians 1 or 2.
Exactly. So they wind up running through the house. He's literally bursting through the glass siding of the place.
Yep.
There's a great chase scene going on, too. And then the police show up.
Yep.
And then they wind up, taking care of the police.
We can help you, Mr. Bacon. Get behind us.
Yeah.
They pull out their guns. Put your hands up. Stop walking towards us. Get on the ground. The whole spiel. And so they start firing at Drax. But, of course, Drax, because of his reasons, the bullets bounce off of him and have no effect on him. And he's laughing because it tickles.
Yeah. It plays into Drax as the character.
Yeah.
Like, there's various interpretations of him in the comics. But this one, I think, really exemplifies him to the point. Like, he's just obviously laughing about the whole thing because he just wants to brawl, and he winds up taking them out a little bit. But then Mantis is using her powers to put everybody in a trance, much like she did with the person behind the star maps. Because they wind up actually taking the map from her. They didn't wind up taking the bus up there.
Oh, okay.
So she winds up putting everybody to sleep and then puts Kevin Bacon in a trance, and then they wind up escaping back to Nowhere.
Yep.
So at this point, too, Nowhere has now been converted into this winter wonderland.
Yep.
There's lights everywhere. It's very festive.
Fake snow machine.
Yeah, and Peter Quill is kind of like, hey, what's going on? And, obviously happy to see
blown away
what's happening. And then they say, well, we have something for you. And they see a big box come getting wheeled out.
Groot, who's now a
teenager, I would imagine.
No, I think at this point he's an adult.
Or he's got to be an adult, or at least young adult.
Young adult, yeah.
Yeah, he comes out and he's just kind of dancing along too, and then we see that obviously Kevin Bacon's like saying, "I can't breathe."
Well, yeah, because Peter doesn't know who's in it, and it's just everyone's kind of standing there waiting for him to open the door, and you just hear Kevin Bacon from behind. He goes, "Guys, can you open this? You didn't put any holes in it. I'm losing oxygen."
Yes, because at this point he's in a trance to be the hero that Peter grew up idolizing, because they don't realize that he was just an actor. So when he was making his flight up there, kind of explaining like it was just a role. It was just a role. Now he's in fully convinced that he is the hero of Earth, which that was hysterical. Like, it's a little subtle thing they did, but still it plays right into the vein of the Guardians. Like, I can't stress it enough. So as they open the box, Peter sees Kevin Bacon and realizes immediately he's in a trance. and immediately is going like, what is going on?
Then they're like, we brought you Kevin Bacon. And he's like, yeah, but you also committed human trafficking.
Yeah. And Drax is like, what's wrong with it? Like, completely downplaying it because he doesn't realize, like, how dangerous that is. And Star-Lord is just going like, okay, guys, we need to fix this. Why did you do this? And then they wind up kind of breaking down about the story that they were told by Kraglin, which Peter responds and says, no, that's not how that happened.
Yeah, it's something to the effect of like, well, of course he doesn't know the full story.
Yeah. So he winds up breaking down a little bit about how actually Peter inspired this feeling of Christmas in Yondu and the rest of the Ravengers. So they wind up having a whole like miscommunication about this. And then you do see that there's kind of like a little peaceful ending, so to speak. There is a band there.
Yeah.
That is playing, which everybody is kind of. How would you describe this scene?
They're new. I mean, it's the band that towards the start of the episode, before Drax and Mantis had left, or while they were in transit or whatever, they had found these instruments and they had somehow come upon Christmas music, and it started playing the notes to a Christmas song, but they had come up with their own words.
Yeah.
So they're new. I mean, it's like if you've ever had a kid or a sibling pick up an instrument in school and they start playing Hot Cross Buns. You know the version. It's not exactly good. It's not exactly listenable, but they're all right.
Yeah, it's kind of a new factor that's thrown in. Like I say, when you see them in this episode, they really do kind of steal some scenes in there because some of the lyrics not really safe for work, so to speak, but they definitely made some comic relief. And you see the Guardians are kind of adapting to this. Like we see Karen Gillan's Nebula dancing to the music, and it's kind of reminds you of Elaine from Seinfeld if you've ever seen that scene. It's in that kind of same vein. So like I say, there's a lot to enjoy about this. But then when Kevin Bacon is taken out of his trance and he hears about what's going on too, he really kind of warms up to the idea about being in space. But the Guardians wind up taking him back on their new ship too.
Yeah.
And then when all of this is unfolding, we do have a one-on-one with Mantis and Peter. And one liner note that was kind of hinted about but was confirmed in this episode is Mantis reveals to Peter that she's his sister.
Well, and she tells Drax earlier in the episode that she is, but she doesn't want to bring it on him, because of everything that happened with Ego, between Guardians 2 and Peter having to leave home and everything else. She's like, I don't want him to look at me every time and be reminded of that, which I got to admit, like I said a little bit ago, I haven't seen Guardians 1 or 2 in a little bit, but I was like, wait, did we know that? Or is that a new thing?
That was something that we didn't know, to be honest with you. I didn't think so.
I didn't remember any hint that they were potentially related.
I think there was like a throwaway line, and that's honestly how I treated it.
Okay.
Because it was kind of like how in this episode too, they did reference Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Which I know people are losing their minds.
Oh, yeah.
And it shows like, calm down. Like it's a fun Easter egg that's a throwaway line. That's what I thought when they said it about Mantis. I was like, okay, in Guardians 2, I was like, all right, well, maybe she is. But I'm sure they'll come back around if there's a good story behind it. But it's not anything that's like a crucial to the story.
Right.
However, for this episode, it was the entire backbone because that's why she was so hell-bent in high water about inspiring the Christmas season in him again. And then when they have their heart-to-heart and when Peter Quill's explaining about, no, I put the Christmas spirit in Yondu, and he's actually the one who got me my guns that I use.
Right.
Like the two-sided blasters. This is where she kind of breaks down and says, yeah, I really want to do something because I'm your sister. And Peter was like, that's the greatest gift I could have. And that actually does pick up his spirits. And that's how it kind of powders out for the rest of the episode here. So like I say, they move a lot of things pretty fast.
Yeah.
But this was just a nice, fun throwaway episode. The bonus scene, though, I thought was a little interesting. That we do have Groot is now getting Christmas lights put on him.
Oh, yeah.
And Rocket, which we can't believe, I almost forgot. Rocket's gift that he received from Nebula.
I don't remember. I only remember Groot getting the Game Boy.
Groot got a Game Boy. Nebula gave Rocket Bucky's arm.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes.
I missed that part.
Yes. That happened.
Oh, wow.
Because I forgot during the whole melee, everybody was getting their gifts.
I must have looked at my phone for a split second.
Yes.
Wow.
She gave him the arm.
Well, here's the question. Did she get the arm or was it given to her?
it was kind of alluded to that she won it in a duel.
Okay, because he lost the vibranium arm and now he's got the whatever arm, the newer arm.
Yeah,
they gave him for Infinity War. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if the old arm wasn't just lying around Wakanda someplace and he's just like, yeah, here you go.
Yeah, like I said, that's how she kind of spun it. But it was kind of a cool throwaway there too that he now finally got the arm. So, like I say, they do have their final goodbyes there as they're kind of hanging up the Christmas tree, and it kind of falls apart, and Rocket alludes that, well, I guess we're going to have to do another special. So he kind of teases that we have more Guardians holiday specials coming too. But this just all kind of ties into just a fun episode. It wasn't meant to be earth-shattering, and it's not meant to really add a lot to the MCU, except I think you got a lot of Easter eggs for where they're going in Guardians 3.
Yeah.
I think the fact that now you see this team reuniting and the mission is going to be finding Gamora. I think that's been officially locked in. I don't.
God, it's the friggin' elephant in the room at this point.
Yeah, that obviously for seeing how mopey he's been since he lost her.
Well, how mopey he's been, and now we've had 2 appearances in the however many years it's been since Endgame happened, and we've had no mention of her other than Quill misses her, which duh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that obviously that's going to be the draw. You know that Adam Warlock is finally making his appearance.
Yeah.
We do have a strong feeling Beta Ray Bill is going to make his appearance.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's been alluded to enough that I think now is the time, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it.
Well, and it's been said before by James Gunn. I mean, listen, James Gunn, the door will always be open from Kevin Feige to come back and do anything he wants with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But given James Gunn's current, duties and responsibilities when it comes to DC, not going to have a lot of time for that. So, you got to figure, and even before his DC duties, he said that this is going to be the last one with this crew together. So, he's going to go balls to the wall with the craziness.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think this just kind of reminded everybody about why the Guardians are so special to the MCU.
Yeah.
Because people do forget, because obviously we are so tied up right now in fandom.
Right.
About Kang appearing.
Yeah.
And then Fantastic Four, what's happening there.
Right.
And obviously the next wave of Disney Plus shows coming.
Right.
So that's all playing a factor that people honestly have. I don't want to say they've forgotten about the Guardians, but we always talk about this. It's a very disposable memory for pop culture fans.
Well, and the other thing, too, is unless you're a big Guardians of the Galaxy fan, or you're like us who watch everything and remember almost everything and all this, for just the casual folks, I think for the casual folks, Guardians of the Galaxy is remembered more for the soundtrack than their characters. The characters are memorable, and I'm not saying, if somebody's seen the Guardians movie, they're going to see Drax, Gamora, Rocket, Groot, Peter, what have you, and go, wait, who the fuck are they? But I think to a casual viewer who just kind of sees the movie once, doesn't go back and rewatch it, might watch a show here or there, but not every single one. If you go to them and say, what's the first thing you think of when I say Guardians of the Galaxy movies? A lot of folks are going to say the music.
Oh, yeah, because when it was presented, before Guardians, you never really had anybody in the MCU showcasing like that much fun.
Sure.
The closest you had was Tony Stark and AC/DC.
Yeah.
That's the closest.
Yeah.
Everybody else has really kind of gone away from that, but that's what made James Gunn's vision so special. That he brought the music in there. He brought the fun. He brought the quirkiness, the weirdness that is the Guardians. Because let's face it, you're in space. This is not supposed to look normal. It's supposed to have a weird vibe to it. And he is somebody that really brought out the weirdness and made it work. That's the true gift that he does. He can take obscure characters and make them relevant and give you emotions for them. And that's what he did here, even in a small dosage. You felt that Mantis obviously wanted to connect with her brother.
Yep.
Felt very sad about what was going on, and obviously had this guilt about not revealing that they were related. That's what led this entire mission. Everybody else was kind of in there, but it wasn't a lot going on with Rocket per se in comparison. Albeit though him and the Nebula scene, that is worthwhile watching.
Yeah.
And seeing how they kind of play off each other a little bit. Groot, you see, is now grown into a young Groot.
Yeah, he's no longer the moody teenager.
Right. So obviously he's getting back to, dare we say, normal.
Yeah.
And you're seeing just like the different elements get thrown in. Obviously, with everybody now on Nowhere, it's now a different vibe that is going to take into episode 3 or volume 3. I keep on saying episode 3 because of Star Wars. Bear with me, folks.
If there's anything we know about these superheroes in their homes, especially in the third movie, that shit's probably going to get destroyed.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, just depending on how they want to do the villains.
Iron Man 3, home destroyed. Thor 3, Home destroyed.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're going to have to do something epic.
Cap 3 lost his home.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's precedent here.
There's precedent. Well, obviously, this is the calm before the storm. Like, honestly.
Yeah.
This is where we just really accept what is going on. And we just had some fun one last time with him. And that's the whole thing you need to take away with this. I mean, obviously, Chris Pratt as Peter Quill, amazing job as usual.
Yeah.
Very brief, but he didn't need to be there because obviously the two major actors of this was Dave Bautista and Pom Klementif. Honestly.
Yeah.
Klementif, I got to remember to say, so I apologize for messing the name up. Like, those two are the ones driving this entire episode.
Yeah.
Everybody else had their moments. Like, don't get it wrong. But in comparison, it was them and Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
And that's all they needed to do is just kind of do a fun one-off. And obviously, with the success that they've had now with these shows, doing the special presentations, we're going to see more of them.
Probably, yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. I don't think they're all going to be holiday themed.
No.
I think they'll throw some in there every now and then if it makes sense to where they want to go. And if you want to remind characters to the pop culture audience,
sure.
Perfect way to do it. If you want to try to take a soft intro, like with Werewolf by Night.
Yeah, well, or even they could do a thing where if there's a portion of an upcoming movie that they want to include, but they just want to cut for time's sake, you could always put it out that way.
Yeah.
I know the certain video games have done that where like, the good example is Kingdom Hearts 3. There was this whole opening sequence that they were going to have, but they wanted to cut, but they then released it as its own thing, Kingdom Hearts 2.8. So there is a possibility that we could see for an upcoming movie that like, hey, there's this whole thing we want to do, but we got to cut it for time. Hey, just put it out as a special on Disney Plus.
Yeah. And well, obviously with the success that they've had now with the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, you're going to see more of it. So that being said, final thoughts on this, Pat?
Thought it was a lot of fun. I got to go back and watch now with the whole arm scene because I feel bad I missed that scene.
Yeah, I can't believe you missed that.
I did not even see that. Wow. But no, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And, only thing I was bummed out was no 6-degree jokes.
Yeah, I was expecting something like that.
Yeah.
But I think they didn't want to play too much into that because obviously when you saw Mantis and Drax in Hollywood, that just really kind of set the tone for everything. When they're there interacting with the Earthlings and obviously just having a lot of fun, that just kicked everything off in the right direction. So when they got back into space and nowhere, like I say, the throwaway scenes are when everybody got their gifts, except for the Nebula one. That was the only one that really kind of jumped out. But everything else is almost throwaway, but it did give that whole superhero Christmas Carol feel to it. Like, that's probably the perfect amalgam you can do of that. It just really felt like the traditional Christmas Carol story you hear where somebody refines their Christmas voice in it. Guardians did it a different way, but it still works. It's still worth the watch. And now I'm really just kind of curious, what are we going to see in Guardians 3? Because obviously with them being on nowhere, they now have a set location. The mission is going to be find Gamora. And obviously with all the moving parts surrounding the universe, James Gunn is going to want to go out on a bang. This was the nice final wave goodbye before he shuts the door. But he did it in a perfect way. So that being said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts about Disney Plus's The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special? Did you love it? Did anybody not love it? That's a question I got because I think it's been universally acclaimed from all the fans that we've talked to about this. But if you didn't, let's talk about it and we'll find out what happened. So that all said, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, and welcome to The Caption Life, a show for the most casual and dedicated fans of comics and a member of the Comic Watch family. I'm your host, Sean. Join me and discover what the world of comics and graphic novels have to offer. From one-on-one interviews with industry professionals, roundtable discussions with passionate fans, and reviews on the latest comics, TV shows, and movies. You can also check out our website, www.thecaptionlife.com, to find out where you can listen to us, a list of all of our episodes, and where you can find us on social media under the username @CaptionLife. You'll get a new episode from us every week, so hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have to give our official review, rating, what have you, of a very polarizing show that was on Disney Plus.
Okay.
More polarizing than I thought it was going to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah?
Bill, the reaction among some fans has been mixed, but it's mostly positive as the series went on. And that show is Star Wars Andor, the prequel to the classic Star Wars movie Rogue One. So this show came out September of this year.
Yep.
And definitely was generating some buzz. Obviously, the trailers looked very interesting. We did know that Diego Luna was reprising his role as Cassian Andor. Did not really know what to expect after that. The series has just wrapped up. Yeah. And there's a lot to break down about this. So obviously, we're going to go spoiler-free statement and then deep dive into it after the countdown. So, Pad, give me your spoiler-free statement.
I know we reviewed they did a 3-episode premiere for this thing when it dropped on September the 21st. And the first 3 episodes were, not, in my opinion, not good. Did not like it. I wasn't going to swear it off just because, listen, it's Tony Gilroy wrote all of the episodes, or Tony and Dan Gilroy worked on a lot of these episodes. They did, Tony especially had a hand with some of the rewrites and stuff with Rogue One. So I was like, all right, listen, Rogue One was good. I'm going to give it the time for this. I'm going to let it build. And once it got going, it took a little bit to get going, but once you got past, the appetizer course, I guess you could say, or the salad, to start off the meal. Once we got into the main meal, the main course of the show, it really picked up for me and it really improved. That by the end, I was, because at the start of this, I had some folks on Twitter and various social media going, this is the best Star Wars television show of all time, like on episode 2 and 3. And I'm like, are we watching the same? Are we watching the same show here? Like, don't get me wrong, I love Star Wars, but like, I'm just not connecting with this, But once it got going, I'm not going to say it's the best Star Wars show of all time, but it's pretty goddamn good.
It got better around episode 7.
I agree.
See, much like we talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. finding its voice season 1 with the Captain America Winter Soldier episode.
Yeah.
And for me, Game of Thrones season 1, episode 5, that's the vibe I got with this show. The original start of this, the 3-episode premiere, was not good.
Right.
It really wasn't, because we know it's the prequel to Rogue One, like we touched upon, the 2016 film.
Yep.
We do know this is set a few years before Rogue One. I want to say
5
years.
I think it's 5.
So we do know that there is some time to get from point A to point B, because what I imagine it's going to do is have an ending when it's all said and done, a la Rogue One, where it leads right to A New Hope.
Well, and that's my guess. My guess is we're going to see the opening of Rogue One, but from Cassian's perspective.
Yes.
So like when Jyn Erso shows up on Yavin in the base and gets interrogated, and then he comes in, one of the last shots we're going to see is him walking into that meeting room for that scene.
Yes, I agree too. And I don't think that's a spoiler since the movie's been out.
The movie's been out for 6 years.
Yeah, exactly. But when this show got clicking, it really hit the ground running. And I will say it took a while to get there.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I went back to it, because I tuned out. And this is a little peek behind the curtain. I was like, no, I'm out. 4 episodes, I was like, no, this is not working. I went back, I rewatched, I hammered through, and like I said, by episode 7, I'm like, okay, now we're going somewhere. And by the time we got done with that finale, I was like, okay, I get it. Mm-hmm. I get the praise. I get everything done about it, because that's what was needed. Because I thought Diego Luna's performance was great.
Yeah.
I thought Stellan Skarsgård was fantastic in this.
Yeah.
And I thought Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma was phenomenal as well.
She was so good.
Yes. And Andy Serkis for his time on there.
Goddamn, talk about a curveball.
Man.
Holy shit.
A lot of good when his story finally started picking up. And the only draw that I have is it took forever to get there. For being 12 episodes in season 1, it should not have taken this long.
Shouldn't have taken 7 episodes.
That's my one gripe with this. Because had they shortened it up a little bit, because there's a couple things they could have cut out.
Sure.
Had they shortened it up, I thought it would have been perfect. But we took so long to get there. Unless you're like completely enamored with those first 3 episodes, which if you are, hey, do you?
Yeah.
I was not.
I just don't understand why every show that came out this year had to do the slow burn.
Because it's the hip thing to do. Like, you know how much it's copycat.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Everybody sees how one show makes it work, and they're like, oh, we got to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
No. If you have a feeling, run with it whichever way you go. I mean, this is just my opinion about things. If you have a feeling that this is how you want to do your thing that way.
Yeah.
don't worry about what everybody else is doing. But
Yeah.
everybody has been doing the slow burn thing.
Walking Dead did the slow burn.
Yeah.
House of the Dragon did the slow burn. This did the slow burn.
Yeah, like it works in certain areas, it does not work in others. Especially if you're doing a prequel for a movie that has already came out.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need this elaborate backstory. We need just a good story.
Sure.
So that is my one drawback. But once this show finally hit the gas pedal, it got good.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I went back to rewatch it. I think the final 3 episodes really sold me on this.
Oh, yeah.
But that being said, let's get into some spoiler talk because I feel I'm going to ruin some stuff. In 3, 2, 1. All right, let's talk spoilers, Pat. What did you think?
Like I said, it took a while to get going, but once it finally started going for me, like I agree with you. Around episode 7, titled Announcement, that's when it really. I'm like, okay, because there were little. I didn't fall further down in my like of it. It kind of stayed pat. For those couple episodes after 3. There were little kernels and little nuggets where I'm like, okay, this is where I'm hooking onto. This is the stuff I'm really liking, especially the stuff with the Imperial Security Bureau and what was going on with Andor and all that. There were little nuggets and little kernels of information that I'm like, okay, this is what I'm here for. And that kind of led me along the breadcrumb trail till we got to, like you said, episode 7, where I'm like, okay, here we go. Now we're going someplace.
Yeah, because, for where we kicked off, obviously, Andor is looking for his sister on one of the planets.
Yep.
That now he's kind of getting roped in to the Empire, the Rebellion and what they're doing. Because obviously Cyril Karn, who's played by Kyle Soller, is not giving up going after Andor.
Yeah.
This is
like a bad habit.
This is a bad obsession he has. And this carries him through a lot during this show. But the only saving grace for Andor at this point is Stellan Skarsgård's Luther Real, who obviously is big with the Rebel Alliance and is trying to recruit him. He sees something special in him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird play that they do.
The big power player with the Rebellion.
Yeah, because as they're going forward, obviously they're running from the Alliance. Obviously the planet Ferrix is kind of got a big bullseye on it right now.
Yeah, because it starts out where it's kind of doing its own thing. There's this outside company that's running things. Shit hits the fan, and then the Empire comes in and goes, okay, yeah, you're done. We're running things here.
Yeah, so it's a little crazy, and this is kind of how Luther Real kind of gets in the mix, and obviously has to make a big save on Cassian Quinn. He's trying to sway him. It's kind of this weird thing that he's like, really, you should be joining us. Look at what they've done to your family. They're responsible for what happened to your sister. He's really kind of spinning the weaves, which, like I say, Skarsgård did an amazing job about selling this.
He was phenomenal.
Yes, and obviously in episode 3, they pull off the big escape, too. So you think, okay, now this is going to happen. This is going to go some places. We're going to go and really make a lot of moves happen. So when they go to Adhadi, the planet there, and this is where they're Luther's kind of testing them out a little bit, because this is a whole sabotage mission that's supposed to be going on here.
Yep.
And obviously, this does not go as well as could be.
No.
Because, obviously, there's a lot of things that he's doing behind the scenes, Lutheran,
Yep.
that I got the idea this entire season, he just shouldn't be trusted.
Yeah, because he's playing both sides, of the Rebellion, because the Rebellion isn't this cohesive unit like you see in Rogue One. It's kind of like, and you see a little bit of this in Rebels, the animated series, where there's cells and there's bits and pieces, but it's not one cohesive unit until down the road. So he's kind of playing both sides, to come out on top. Because you see he's working with Mon Mothma, who's using her funds from her family's fortune to help fund the rebellion, but she's running into issues with that, But then you also later down in a couple episodes see Lutheran meeting with the only Forrest Whitaker playing Saw Gerrera again. So he's clearly you're absolutely right. This guy shouldn't be trusted, because as soon as he sees an opening with okay, this person's clearly the winner, he's probably going to stab you in the back.
Exactly, because every time this heist is going on and Cassian's really trying to connect in there, it just seems like it was a setup for disaster.
Yeah.
And obviously, when they try making the run for it, well, it does not go the way they expect to go.
No.
Because obviously they see that they actually, didn't they drop the payroll that they were trying to go for?
Something like that, yeah.
And then Cassian winds up killing somebody,
right,
to kind of cover his tracks, so to speak. but this kind of tips him off into the direction of the Empire.
Well, and especially this whole heist, sabotage mission, whatever it was doomed from the start, just because the entire time the entire group is just arguing back and forth with like, who is this guy? How can we trust this guy?
Yeah.
We don't know anything about this guy. Well, listen, he's the only option we got. We can't do this job with X number of people. We need Y number of people, and he puts us out to the Y number. Like, it's just this back and forth. So the whole thing was doomed from the start.
Yeah, and meanwhile, like Lutheran, who's supposed to be the one watching everything overseas or oversight, he's just kind of like in the shadows.
Yeah.
Like, I thought this was kind of an interesting play that you want us to get invested about this character, and yet you're kind of manipulating things from the outside, and you expect it like all to kind of work itself out together. Because the entire time this whole heist is going on, he's nowhere to be found, but he's got his ear to the ground picking up things. Because bouncing back and forth between the planet they're on and then on Coruscant, which is getting more crazy as it's going too, because obviously Karn, who is discredited from the entire first ordeal with Cassian, is now back home and really getting creepy. I mean, that's the easiest way I could describe it.
Yeah, his mom's trying to set him up with a job with his uncle. He can't give up the whole Cassian Andor thing.
No, he can't. And he is just refusing to do it. He's calling every single favor to like get back in the good graces of the Empire.
Yeah.
Like, it's just something that was just like,
Doesn't he even at one point show up on Coruscant outside the Imperial Security Bureau?
yeah.
And the chick who dealt with him on Ferrix is like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you cannot do this.
Yeah, the officer that fired him was like, no, you need to leave. Like, you should not be here. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, I can do this. I can stop this.
I can help you find Cassian Andor.
Yeah, and it's like, man, you need to pump your brakes.
Did Andor piss in your Cheerios? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's a bizarre moment that I'm just sitting here going like, okay, this could have been taken out or really shortened up.
Shortened, I agree.
Yeah, because this is dragging time on that we could use to establish something else. But right now we're about 6 episodes in, and it seems like a lot of filler. It really does. I mean, to me, because you're trying to force us to really care about Karn, and there's nothing to care about. You have Skarsgård, who's making moves in the shadows.
Yeah.
But he's still like outside looking in. You have all these rebels that want nothing to do with Cassian. And yet we're supposed to imagine we're all going to work together as one big cohesive team. Like, I'm sorry, like, it's not flying. So, like, why are we sitting here trying to force this down everybody's throats? Like, that was the point that really kind of threw me off, because I'm going like, all right, this is not working. This is not going to go down. Why are we doing this? And then, obviously, as everything's going forward, it's just getting more messy, because Cassian returns to Ferrix after everything's all said and done. And everybody he's kind of turned into public enemy number one.
Yeah, a little bit.
To put the least. Because obviously he's drawn all this attention back to his home. His mother is not doing well.
Yeah.
And obviously she is a very well respected member of the community there.
Oh, God, yeah. Everybody loves her.
Right. So when he returns from dealing with what he's been doing, he's now brought stormtroopers looking for him. And how this is now setting up for a lot of headbutting, shall we say?
Yeah, well, it's the thing that, like, it's a small town, people know each other, you know your neighbors. And it's not hard to believe that there's at least 1 or 2 people, maybe even more, on that block, on that street, that are pro-Empire. And if the Empire comes knocking, a lot of folks may not answer the door. Some may be like, yeah, no, I don't know anything. But then you get the folks that are like, I am absolutely ready, willing, and able to help you in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So it's really insane to think about.
Yeah.
But it's something that kind of has played, like, it plays a bigger role later. That now Cassian is sitting there, can't work with the Empire or rebels.
Yep.
There's the tip off that, well, he's revealing Luther's identity. Like, this kind of came out of nowhere for me. I don't know. Like, I didn't really kind of get this point. That I thought, like, if they were seriously worried about Cassian revealing anything, like, it didn't exactly give a tip off, at least in my opinion,
right,
that he was going to do something. But while he's back home, or he now is traveling to a different place, he gets picked up and mistaken for vandalism.
Yeah, well, and plus there's this whole subplot going on where, he's on a beach someplace or whatever the hell it is. But then there's this whole subplot with, like, the Empire's really trying to get out get the rebels off the streets. And I forget the exact wording or verbiage of how it happens, but they basically take all of the sentences that have already been handed out or will be handed out and basically like double them or something like that. They're like, even at one point after Andor gets captured, they're like, yeah, somebody that is in the jail or transport with him is like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. People got picked up for like a simple theft, for basically like petty theft, and they're getting like multiple years.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting plot they do, because now this is the point I honestly feel like the show finally got its legs and started running.
Oh, yeah.
Because up until then, I know our description was kind of a little vague, but in my opinion, that's what it felt like. Like, we're really trying to force something on here and really trying to have you care about these other characters involved, and it just didn't connect. Like, other than Mon Mothra, I don't think that we've had anybody else that really kind of stood out other than Skarsgård and Caston. Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I mean, there were some okay performances, but like memorable, noteworthy, not really.
No, it's very disposable at this point. So like I say, we now have 6 episodes in, and it's kind of like, all right, what are we doing?
Right.
That's why I say this is kind of my biggest drawback about this. But now we're finally at episode 7, where things now have finally picked up. Mm-hmm. And this is when Casson is now arrested. He's brought to Nakina 5.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a prison factory where he now has to work with a bunch of different prisoners.
They're all in teams, yeah.
Yep, making machines for
something
reasons.
Yeah, they don't explain it, but hey, you don't need to know.
Yeah, and this is kind of a situation where Casson's mom is now sick too.
Mm-hmm.
She is now very ill and near death's door. They're now trying to get a hold of Luthen, who's trying to, who knows where he is.
Yeah.
But he's not helping.
Yeah.
Because he's worried about his identity.
Yep.
So this is kind of where the shadiness of the rebellion comes in.
Yeah.
And I'm going like, okay, you've now tried setting up that Caston was the number 1 free agent. You wanted him on your team. You got him on your team. Something went wrong, and now all of a sudden he's persona non grata.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't exist. Like, it just... How they did this flip, I just was not a huge fan of. But then we see at this point, too, a little meeting of the minds, because Luthen meets up with Saw Gerrera.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very good conversation about things. And while this is going on, too, we do find ourselves seeing how Casson is trying to survive in his new environment.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of where things kind of pick up, because now he's kind of getting used to the situation at hand, and we see Andy Serkis's character come in.
Totally did not see this coming.
Yeah, break it down for us, Pat.
No, yeah, so Andy Serkis, so essentially the way this whole prison colony works is, like we mentioned, they build parts to some machine or some equipment or whatever. They're in teams, and there seems to be there's multiple levels. We never find out how many levels there are in this place. But there's multiple levels in this thing, but there seems to be this, like, competition between the levels, or at least between the tables on the level, because the one, and Andy Serkis's character is like the head person of the level that Cassian Andor is on, because he's always like, hey, we got to beat these other guys, we're 1 behind, we're 2 behind, we're 1 ahead, we're 3 ahead, so there just seems to be this constant, like, and that's his whole thing. And plus, I forget how long his sentence was, but he's within the last, I want to say it was like 1.5 to 2 years.
Something like that.
They said the date. I forget what it was. It's been, over a month since I've seen the episode. But he's getting real close at the end. So at this point in the story, he's very by the book, by the letter. I don't want to fuck this up because I want to go see my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so his character named Kino is really focused. Like, he's the most dedicated worker I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, he is just following a line with whatever the Empire is telling him to do. Because he has this idea that they're going to let him go free. We all know this is not going to happen at home, but it's still very interesting to see how this plays out. But like I say, he's aligning himself with the Empire. They're trying to go. There's another member of their crew that is not in good shape.
No.
And when this character by the name of Yuluf, who is older,
he's got, if I had to ballpark his age, late 60s, early 70s.
I would say 70s.
70s, and he is. Again, they said how much longer he has, but he was under 6 months.
Yeah, he had very little time.
He had like less than triple digits left in his sentence, and so they were like, "Listen, if anybody needs to make it out of here, it's you."
Yeah. So when he winds up having a stroke and the prison medic comes over there, they basically write him off.
Yeah.
And this Dr. Raziv, decides to drop the bombshell, which in hindsight, maybe he should not have said.
Well, and there had been hints that something was going on just because they have their living quarters, which the living quarters are booby-trapped with electrocuting floors, heating floors, burning floors.
They have like a torture system set up.
So, like, basically, like, you go to your quarters or your cells, and you can stand on the floor, but then once they start counting down the timer, if you're not actually physically in your cells, whatever the floor does, whether it burns you or it electrocutes you, it kills you.
Yeah.
So they go from their cells, they go to their workplace, and they're in these tubes where they're waiting kind of like an elevator or door system, whatever it is. But you can also look out the sides and see some of the other groups that are on the station. And while you can't communicate between the two, there is some form of sign language that a couple of them know. So in the episodes or the couple of scenes we see during this whole sequence, something is going on where, like, there's this one character who's talking with a brother or somebody he knows that's on another level. And, like, they're trying to communicate, but, like, they're trying to do it without getting caught. So it's like bits and pieces are getting caught. So up until this point, we know something is going on or something is going down, but we don't know what.
No, we don't. And like I say, the closest way you can describe this environment is it's almost like the TV show Oz.
Yeah.
Like, it has that kind of space vibe to it, but everybody kind of knows they're in there for the wrong reasons. But when this doctor reveals that, yeah, when you hit your release date, you're just moved to another floor.
Yep.
You're not going home. You're not going to be free. And basically, the prisoners, if they decide to let this slip, are killed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we kind of assume happens here. So now, Casson, who's been working the entire time to escape essentially what is the raft, if you want to talk Marvel Comics.
Pretty much, yeah.
This high-tech prison, has now got Kino on his side and saying, listen, we're never leaving here.
Uh-huh.
No matter what they want to try to say, we're working for the Empire. It's never going to change here at all. So we have to escape. And this is where things, like I say, everything got interesting here.
Yeah, it did.
Like, everybody else's story that we talked about, like Mon Mothma has been doing some political things going on the side too, because she's still trying to work for the rebels.
Yep.
In secrecy, because obviously every time she goes to the Senate, she's getting tuned out.
Mm-hmm.
Because why, Pad?
Well, no, everyone is getting their pockets lined, and they don't really care.
Yeah, it's politics 101, folks, in my opinion. So that storyline has kind of been slow building there, which I didn't mind that being the background story.
Yeah, no, there wasn't a lot of time. It was what it was. Like, obviously, they have to do some of it just because what you see in Revenge of the Sith, where the Senate's there and they're politicking and this and that, to the next time we hear mention of them in the films is the brief line from, I believe it was Moff Tarkin in A New Hope, where he's like, "Oh yeah, the Emperor got rid of the Imperial Senate."
Mm-hmm.
Like, something has to happen in between then and now, because he doesn't just he kind of does out of the blue just decide to go, "Oh well, no, we're done," but like something's got to happen there.
Yeah, we're seeing the slow build for that, which I don't mind. The fact that we have 2 seasons, we know it's going to be 2 seasons.
Yeah,
I didn't mind that. Okay, we have little setup for that because we didn't need it dominating. So at this point, though, the show shifts back to the escape from the prison raft.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where things, like I said, I really liked how this went, because Casson is now mobilized with everybody, and there's a common sense that, okay, the cat's out of the bag, so to speak. We do know that we're all going to die here. Do we want to do this, or do we want to take a shot to live? He winds up getting this crazy idea about short-circuiting the floors, working with everybody to cause distractions. And we do see Andy Serkis's character Kino give the best speech to motivate everybody there.
Oh, yeah.
And I will go on record and say this is way better than Bill Pullman's Independence Day speech by far and away. I was sitting there in my seat watching this, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, no, yeah,
I'm in. I don't even.
This is good.
I'm not even on the raft here, and I'm ready to go break out. Unlike Bill Pullman, who, I'm sorry, that speech.
Today is all our Independence Day.
Sorry, that was me falling asleep again to it. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of Independence Day.
It's all right. If it's on TV, I might, and that's like in all caps, italicized, might watch it. I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it.
Not one of my movies.
It's okay.
Not one of mine. But like I said, this speech by Andy
for its time, it was okay.
We'll talk about that in another podcast. But for this moment, though, this is where everything kind of tipped off, where Circus is now leading everybody in this, and everybody is all in to go get free. So we're seeing the short circuiting of the floor. We're seeing the riot break out in the jail, and everybody that is for the Empire knows they're now outgunned and they've been outsmarted. And it's kind of like you see the air let out of the room, and you see that they're like going, okay, what do we do now? And meanwhile, everybody is now running towards the exits, and they realize that obviously they're in water. So you have to jump off to swim. And I gotta say, this moment hit me in the feels for a sec.
Oh, me too.
Because you're seeing Casson is running with Kino. Everybody's coming behind him. They get right to the edge, and Kino just stops.
Yep.
And Casson's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I can't swim."
Can't swim.
And then before Casson can even do anything, the herd of people shove him out. So you see the final shot of him falling, and Circus is just standing on the ledge watching.
Yep.
I was like, man, it was a great scene to see how this was all set up, because this was so tactful of how they were all working together. They all kind of played into it. This was strategic. Like I said, they burnt an entire episode to do this.
It was worth it, though.
But it works. And this is where everything really kicked in to gear. So we see Casson now escapes. You see Mon Mothma's doing some business with a gentleman by the name of Davos Skunlin, who is kind of trying to do some Game of Thrones things here. Arranging marriages for power structures. It's kind of going back and forth. Meanwhile, Lutheran is in secrecy, keeping an ear out for Casson, especially. Like, he's just, there's something about him that just still did not set well with me. And I don't know about you, Pat. By this point, too, it's like, you're still keeping an ear on Casson. Why are you so special about Casson? Because if he's in the prison, wouldn't he talk there? Like you would think?
Well, the thing of it is I think so they didn't know where he was because he got a mistaken identity thing. So they don't know where the fuck he is. So that's the whole thing. I think he was using his real name with the other inmates, but I think in like the prison records terms, whatever name he got picked up under was the name he was in there for. So I think that's why everyone was like, "Where the fuck is he? Why do we not know where he is?" Because he got picked up under a different name or a case of mistaken identity.
Yeah. No, I could see that point, because that was the only thing that was kind of throwing me off a little bit, because I was like,
because there was also some moments where the Empire was kind of like keeping tabs on him, obviously, but even the Empire didn't know where he was.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, why does the Empire not know where he was? The Empire has hold of him. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's right. He got picked up by mistaken identity.
Yeah. No, that makes more sense then, because I was like, you know what? If he's this big deal and he's the number one draft pick, how is he off everybody's radar? And
mistaken identity.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense then. So thank you for clearing that up for me. Because like I say, the first 6 episodes, that kind of did throw me off that he did have the mistaken identity. So I get that.
Well, and also they didn't really
dive into it too much.
They didn't really stick with. I don't want to say stick with it. They didn't really dwell on it too much. It was pretty much, the one episode where he got picked up, and then they're like, no, that's not who I am. I'm not that person. Whatever, blah blah blah. And then just the next thing we know, he's in the prison.
Yeah, so it was like a throwaway line. Almost.
They didn't dwell on it too much.
Okay, so that's why it just kind of misconnected about that, because it's like, well, you figured that they would check him when he went in there,
right?
You're just thinking they do digital records to figure out who they are, fingerprints and all that jazz. But hey, the Empire, they do some,
they like to cut corners.
Yeah, they like to shave off some stuff there. So, but this is where we finally get to the final 2 episodes of the season, and we get to, I think, what was the strongest episode, and that's Daughter of Ferrix.
Yes.
And this is when Casson's mom Marva dies. So now there's a big funeral that is going to be happening on Ferrix. So all eyes have now shifted back to the planet, and you're now having Lutheran come back to check. You're having the weirdo that was fired trying to redeem himself, that just gave the weirdest. I'm blanking on the guy's name from Animal House, Niedermeyer.
Oh yeah,
yeah, Kevin Bacon's character, ironically. Like his vibes that he's refusing to give this up, so he's now making his play to go there, and we're seeing that everybody is just now set up for this big funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, the people of Ferrix do know something's going to go on.
Oh, yeah. They're not stupid.
So they're getting ready for this. Lutheran, though, is kind of making his play as well, because when he leaves from Coruscant, he has to escape the Empire, because now they're kind of tracing him down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then when you see that Cassin is now making his way back, he is now planning on just exposing everything he knows about the Empire. So now that kind of makes him a prime target for a lot of people. So not only Lutheran is chasing after him to cover his own ass, the Empire is now, wait a sec, you can't reveal what you know.
Yeah.
You're going to cause us to fault, and this is now just built up the pressure so much that no matter who has been trying to tell him, like, lay low, you can't. And you're seeing just the drawback to this planet because he wants to say goodbye to his mother one last, pay respect to his mother who's passed. Like, this is where this all really plays in.
Right.
Meanwhile, you're kind of having more happen with Mon Mothra and just the political scheme of everything going on as well.
Yeah, it's more kind of like a House of Cards type of vibe.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. And that's why I said it was very strong acting, and they definitely were playing this into because now everybody's brought back together. So we've now wasted, I don't want to say wasted, but we've now had 10 episodes where everybody's been kind of scattered all over the place. Now everybody's coming back to Ferrix. Now everything is coming back full circle. You have Luthen, who's trying to cover his own ass. You now have the Empire, who's trying to take them out, and basically anybody else is going to fight them and set the example. And you have Cassin, who's just basically like, I'm going to be a rebel, but I'm not officially a rebel. Kind of almost like in Sami Zayn, is he part of the bloodline, is he not? In a weird sense.
Good comparison.
Thank you. And then when he finally gets there for the funeral, he hears about his friend Bix has been imprisoned. And then basically it's now been told, like, Andor needs to be taken alive. And Lutheran is saying, nope, we're going to do this my own way because I'm going to cover my tail. He's now lurking around the crowd. Mon Mothra is just really keeping an eye on everything outside and obviously making some very, very noteworthy political enemies.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they're still trying to push the arranged marriage of her daughter into Davos' son.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, we'll have more build up to that next season.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't mind it during this one. I really didn't because I thought they played this very well.
You need some kernels to continue on in the second season.
Yes. And then we do see that there's a big funeral procession in the middle of the town.
Yep.
And you do see that somebody is playing a bell at the tower. Almost like firing the first shot to the people.
Oh, yeah.
To let them know something's going on. Marva's android that was with her, B2EMO, displays the final will and testament, I guess you could say, of Marva, who gives an impassioned speech, too.
Pulls a swerve of all swerves.
Man, I tell you, talk about this moment for a sec, Pat.
This moment was awesome just because you have the whole funeral procession, you've got the Empire in waiting, you've got some, I guess you could call them, quote-unquote, rebellion factions waiting, the side that doesn't like the Empire. And then you kind of get to the town square, and, her droid starts projecting her image, in a giant form into the crowd, so into the air so everyone can see and hear her. And she's talking, and she's talking, and she's giving this, like, nice little speech about the end of her life and yada, yada, yada. And then she just all of a sudden takes a left-hand turn and goes, oh, by the way, fuck the Empire.
Yeah.
And it just all kicks off from there.
Yeah, Fiona Shaw, amazing performance during this entire season, but that moment just really capped off everything, inspiring the people of Ferrix to just stand up for themselves. And then we see everything just kind of goes crazy. And this is where you're seeing Cyril Karn shows up, and you're seeing that everybody is now kind of coming back. You see Cassin is now making a valiant escape. And he's obviously trying to get Bix somewhere okay, but it's not really happening. The rebellion is all taken, just going absolutely, like, I mean, how else do you describe this scene?
Oh, it's just chaos.
Yeah.
Pure and utter chaos.
Yeah, the Empire is definitely not ready for what's happening here because the people are fighting back.
Oh, yeah.
And they were definitely caught off guard about this. So while this entire melee is going on, you see that Luthen takes off.
Yep.
And is heading back to his ship because he is like, okay, I can't find Cassin. I'm going to have to regroup and figure everything out. Meanwhile, when he gets back to his ship, Cassin is waiting there. And Luthen, he knows why he's there.
Yep.
He knows Luthen is going to try killing him. So Cassin gives him arguably the biggest curveball to end the season on. He says, all right, you can either kill me or you can have me join the rebellion. So the entire time we get from point A to point B, it was all a recruitment trip.
Pretty much.
to get Cassian a part of the Empire.
Well,
Rebellion, I'm sorry.
Rebellion. And I think Luthen, he knew he'd be good for the Empire. God, you got me doing it.
Yeah.
Luthen be good for the Cassian would be good for the Rebellion. It's just he didn't want to force him into it when he didn't want to do it. He kind of had to walk him along and lead him along hey, listen, you want to do this, but I got to lead you there first.
Yeah, but it felt like an Empire move, to be honest with you.
Kind of.
It was like a weird Daredevil and stick moment. That's probably the easiest way I could describe it. Is just he really had to test him to see if he was ready. But it's like if he was your number one draft pick, because that's kind of how it felt. Like you really saw something in this kid that he was going to be the future to save the world.
Right.
You went to great lengths to test him. You threw him with a squad that was turning on him and not being very rebellious, so to speak. And then when he winds up getting arrested, he knows who you are. And yet you can't find him, but you're kind of keeping your ear out for him. So you're definitely hanging in the shadows, waiting for your moment to strike. Obviously, when his mom goes, that brings everything back together. But when Cassian understands what's going on, because he's now seen what the Empire has done firsthand, inadvertently, he's now had his eyes open completely to what the Empire is up to.
Uh-huh.
And then he winds up joining the side of the rebellion after it's all said and done.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, they really hit everything in stride. The bonus scene at the end here, too, of the final episode. How would you like to describe that one, Pat?
Kind of one of the lamest bonus scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
We know it's coming. We know it's there. You don't need to show it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're vaguely familiar with the Star Wars timeline, you know where they're at. You know what's coming. You know what they're building. Like, it was cool. Don't get me wrong. But do we really need to see it?
Yes, because we find out what everybody's been building at Narkina 5.
Yeah.
And, Pat, what is that?
Pieces for the Death Star.
Yes.
Specifically the laser array, that big old dish in the middle.
I will only accept the scene on one condition.
Okay.
If Andy Serkis's character lives,
yeah,
and he's the one that places the spot where Luke fires the laser to blow up the Death Star.
Well, we know that's possible. I mean, we do know from Rogue One that Jin's father built that into the plans. So, I mean, it could happen.
Yeah, I want to see some Andy Serkis connection there, too. But I do agree with you. Like, it was a cool moment for nostalgia purposes, but it's kind of a letdown for a bonus scene.
Yeah.
But then again, we're spoiled as Marvel fans.
Well, it's also not, it's hard for this show to do a bonus scene just because we know where these characters are going to end up.
Yeah.
There's no tease you could do that's like, holy shit, that person's coming for season 2. Like, okay, we know, K2SO is going to come in season 2. They've said as much. Mm-hmm. They were very clear before the season started, you're not going to see K2SO in this season. He's going to come season 2. So there's very little they could do. So that's about the only thing you could do was show the Death Star.
Yeah. And it makes sense, but I do agree with you. It kind of felt like a letdown because of how good that episode was. And going into the final thoughts about this, it took a while to get there, but once Cassian got arrested, that's when the show found its vein.
It got going.
I agree with you completely because I think that it took that moment to say, okay, why is this guy so special? Sure, he's been bobbing and weaving out of trouble for the first couple episodes. He has a weird guy that he got fired now chasing him. And that really never got resolved, too, by the way. So he'll be lurking around next season. But you now see why Cassian was so important and so special because he is someone that saw an opportunity to be a symbol for the rebellion and rise against. And this is where he played into it, obviously with some great help from Andy Serkis, who I think was the unsung hero of the show.
Oh, absolutely.
And just the portrayal was when they're on Narkina 5 and doing the Great Escape. Sure, it was 3 episodes build, but it paid off. Short, sweet, got to the point, established who was a good guy, who was a bad guy, and ran with it. Mm-hmm. Then now when he came back to Ferrix, everything made sense because now he's fully against the Empire. He's public enemy number 1 no matter where he goes. So he's got to stay out of the line of fire even though people are coming after him trying to kill him.
Oh, yeah.
And then ultimately he winds up joining the Empire, or the Rebellion. But man, it felt like the Empire recruiting class. That's the only thing that really kind of felt like that. Final thoughts on the series. Season 1, I should say.
Final thoughts on season. It was a good season. It took a little bit to get there, but once it started getting going, god damn, it was good.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think it goes on the performances of the 3 that we mentioned too. Diego Luna was exceptional as Cassian Andor when he finally got some material to really sink his teeth into. And like I say, it's that prison scene that really got him going. It took a while to get there. The other side characters from Ferrix, with the exception of his mother, really forgettable.
Yeah.
Not going to lie.
It was nice to see. It was cool to see some motivation just because, I mean, it expounded upon the line in Rogue One where it's like, where he tells Jin, oh, you just started doing this fight. I've been fighting this fight since I was 6 years old. So it was nice to see that. Just I don't think it needed to dwell on it as long as it did.
No, I agree with you too. I thought they dwelled way too long. But I loved his character. I really thought there's some potential there. The intrigue about Luthen is something that I think is going to carry through, but Stellan Skarsgård was the perfect actor for it.
Absolutely.
I think he did enough in the shadows that he didn't tip off too much, but you really saw somebody that really could go either way, and it wasn't like so fully 100% in. It's kind of like he had his foot on the handle for the back door to get out if he needed to,
Right.
but he's still invested in what they're doing, so he's ultimately watching out for himself. That's the way I took it, but I thought his character, when he had moments to shine, really shined through. I thought there was, through those 4, 5, 6 episodes, not really getting a lot. Like, I understand it was a cool thing to see him sneak around and, dare I say, cosplay.
Sure.
But when he was trying to go undercover a lot, but I really don't think I got the feeling like he was 100% in for the Republic. He was in for himself.
Yeah.
And that's something that you watch enough Star Wars, you either know they're with the Force or they're against the Force, just to put it mildly. I thought Genevieve O'Reilly's Mon Mothma, definitely an interesting story when it got its time to go. And obviously it started late, about episode 4, but they did a nice small parts here, small parts there, that'll be the bigger story going into the next season. Perfectly fine with it. Really dug it. And then Andy Serkis' Kino. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Really helped make that scene. And he actually made Cassian a more interesting character, hands down.
Oh, absolutely.
So like we say, when you get to episode 7, then it'll get good. So if you gave up on it earlier, and I'll admit, I did, go back and give it a rewatch. I know it'll be tough. I understand this. But hear how I say this. If you get to episode 7 and you just start there, you could go Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on this if you want to.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. But you could. But I think you just got to hammer through it. Trust me, it will get better. Because once you get to that episode 7, then things will take off. Disney Plus has got it going on for Star Wars Andor. So if you're looking for something to watch over the holiday season, Pad recommends it. So do I. But definitely hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about this season 1 of Star Wars Andor? Let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. My name is Thomas, and what's your name?
I'm Alan.
Alan.
Oh, yeah. We're brothers.
That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot
Got the
that.
same mother and father.
Your room was...
Oh, we shared the room.
Shared a room.
We shared a room.
Thought I knew your face.
Yeah,
from
we go
somewhere.
way back, mate. Yeah.
We should do a podcast then.
We have.
We do a podcast.
We do a podcast.
What's it called?
The
Broadcast.
Yeah, that was planned.
Yeah, well.
What do we do?
Well, we cover all different things in the world of pop culture. We're talking about comic books, we're talking about professional wrestling, and we're talking about movies. Go back and watch classic retro wrestling events, the likes of WWE, WCW, and if you do like that, you can check us out on Apple iTunes, also on Podbean, Anchor, and on Podknife. Also check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast. That's BROKAST. Nearly stuffed up the ending.
No, it's all right. Good on you.
Yeah. Instagram also at The Broadcast Podcast.
Remember, we don't spell it with a C. We spell it with a K.
Sorry, mate.
Take it easy.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. The first of which dropped at like fucking 6:30 this morning or something absurd.
Yeah, it was super early as we record on Wednesday the 30th.
Yeah, but the headline on the Deadline article I'm reading from reads, quote, Warner Brothers Television Studios close to striking animation deal with Amazon for DC branded content. So the article says, quote, Warner Brothers Television Studios is in the process of closing a major animation deal with Amazon for DC branded content, according to Channing Dungey. Dungey teased the news at Content London, stating that the studio is exploring animated IP on different platforms, including WBD-owned HBO Max. With animation, we used to be about staying in-house, but now we are doing it on different platforms, she added. HBO Max is the first stop, but we are in the process of closing a big deal with Amazon featuring DC-branded content in animation. Dungey didn't elaborate further on the deal as she talked through a role she has now been doing for 2 years. She echoed the view of Showtime President Entertainment Jana Winograd yesterday by stating that shows will be made for less money in the coming years due to the global cost of living crisis. There was a feeling for a while that if you were not spending $10 million an hour, then you're not doing your job, she added. But if it doesn't take that to make a great show, and doing things differently in the pandemic underscored that, close quote. So not quite sure what this means, but it sounds like we're going to be getting some DC stuff on Amazon, maybe some more adult stuff, maybe some, I want to say akin to The Boys, not necessarily The Boys, but like more on that graphic side.
Yeah, I'm not, to be honest with you, I don't know how to take this.
Yeah.
I really don't. Like, it sounds like if they're going to be moving some DC properties over there, like, wouldn't you think that you'd want to keep them on HBO Max?
I think the main ones are going to be on HBO Max, but it's some of the other stuff that might not be suitable for HBO Max. Some of the other properties that we don't know how these are going to do. Move them over there.
Yeah, I mean, I would just think, see, it'd be easier if they had the Vertigo line still.
Right.
Then I would say, like, okay, that would make sense to move them over there. I could see that. Now that everything's all Black Label, I don't know how that would go. But it's such an interesting premise to do. I mean, granted, Amazon's a great streaming service to do things on, so I wouldn't object to it. Mm-hmm. It just sounds very odd. So, like, I still haven't processed this all.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like...
Well, we also don't know how to react because we don't know what's going over there.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, were they... Because I can't see them moving Harley Quinn.
No.
And
they're not going to take any of their existing content and move it over there. It's going to be new stuff.
Yeah, so it's like, what else could you be rolling out that's new? I mean, that's going to be the fun thing about watching and seeing, but I think in the meantime, yeah, we're going to definitely wait and see about this, but that's interesting.
Do you know what you're doing on February 24th, 2023?
I am camped out at a movie theater waiting with popcorn and soda in hand.
Yeah, me too, because we got a trailer today for the upcoming film from Elizabeth Banks titled Cocaine Bear.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, you heard that.
A million times yes.
You heard this. You heard that title right, folks. This movie's titled Cocaine Bear. Reading from the description on the IGN YouTube page, it says, quote, "On a rampage for blow and blood, meet Cocaine Bear. Check out the oddly comical yet extremely terrifying trailer for Cocaine Bear, an upcoming movie starring Kerry Russell, Margot Martindale, Ray Liotta, Alden Ehrenreich, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Jesse Tyler Ferguson, Christoph Hivju, Kai-Hoon Kim, Christian Convery, Brooklyn Prince, and Scott Seiss. Yes, that's Scott Seiss from TikTok. And so it goes on to say, inspired by the 1985 true story of a drug runner's plane crash, missing cocaine, and the black bear that ate it, this wild thriller finds an oddball group of cops, criminals, tourists, and teens converging in a Georgia forest where a 500-pound apex predator has ingested a staggering amount of cocaine. I'm having a hard time getting through this.
Yeah.
Cocaine and gone on a coke-fueled rampage for more blow and blood. Directed by Elizabeth Banks from Charlie's Angels and Pitch Perfect 2. From a screenplay by Jimmy Warden from The Babysitter, Killer Queen. Cocaine Bear is produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, The Mitchells versus the Machines, and Adidas Sud from The Martian. For Lord Miller by Elizabeth Banks and Max Handelman, Pitch Perfect franchise. This movie just looks fucking ridiculous, but I'm here for it.
Give it to me. Give it to me. This absolutely looks nuts. And all the right reasons.
Uh-huh.
I thought this was a joke. Like,
Yeah.
when I saw the poster yesterday, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, is this real?
Yeah.
And then we see the trailer.
The trailer where at one point there's a young boy, maybe like 11 or 12 years old, up a tree, and another adult climbs up the tree opposite him, and he goes, "Oh, good thing we're up in a tree. Bears can't climb trees, can they?" And the kid looks at him and goes, "Yes, they can climb trees." And the next scene in the trailer is of the bear looking up one tree, seeing at the kid, seeing the adult in the other tree, and then goes up that tree at a full sprint.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's incredible.
I am there first day, tickets in hand.
Oh yeah, I'm in for this.
There's no way I'm missing this. None.
This looks stupid. This looks absurd, but it looks hilarious.
Oh my God. This just, I don't know if it's supposed to be a horror film or it's supposed to be a comedy, but
I think it's a thriller, but it's going to be more comedy than anything.
I'm here for it. Like, I'm sorry. This just looks absolutely out of control, and I love this kind of stuff.
My favorite part of the whole trailer, though, is at the beginning when these two people first stumble upon the bear who's ingesting the cocaine. And the guy just looks at him, and rather than running, rather than getting a gun out if he's got one, looks at it and goes, "Let's watch what happens for scientific purposes."
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this isn't going to end well.
It's never going to end well, but my God, this just looks awesome. Like, the only thing I need now is Cocaine Bear versus Sharknado.
Yeah.
Just he's the only person that can stop it. Give it to me.
Sticking with movie theaters, if you somehow were one of the few people who didn't see Top Gun Maverick in theaters, you'll get another chance to. Because while, yes, the movie is debuting on Paramount Plus in the U.S., Canada, Australia, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, UK, and Latin America on December 22nd. Starting this Friday on December 2nd for a 2-week run, the movie's going to be going back into theaters. It is the year's highest grossing film, having made $716.6 million domestically and $1.486 billion worldwide. The Paramount saw how weak the freaking box office has been the last couple of weeks, and they're deciding to put it back out for 2 weeks because in 3 weeks there's going to be a juggernaut at the box office by the name of Avatar. So it's going to be, so if you didn't see it in theaters for whatever reason, you're going to get a 2-week run here starting this Friday, and you'll be able to see it in theaters.
I am actually one of the people that did not get a chance to see it in a theater, so I will probably be taking advantage of this because I keep hearing it's amazing. It's
one of the best sequels to a beloved original you will see.
Yeah, see, I just have not had time. I'll admit that's the only reason I have it. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I don't want to go see this.
Yeah,
no, it's actually something that I think I definitely want to go check.
And then over to some video game news because, one, I got to tell you the PlayStation Plus December monthly games because there is an awesome lineup. And then I got to go through PlayStation. I remembered PlayStation is doing their year-end sale where some games are up to 80% off, and I'm going to go through some of those you should definitely be checking out. But for the PlayStation Plus December monthly games, these are available for any of the 3 tiers they have for the PlayStation Plus, so that's Premium, Extra, and Essential. You have Biomutant, which is a game I've not heard of, DKO, Divine Knockout, and then Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So this is the remaster of the first 3 Mass Effect games, 1, 2, 3, not Andromeda. It is the first remaster of the first 3 games, including all DLC for this game. And the nice thing, they put in an autosave feature for the first one. Because the first one, I did not. I got it for, or my brother got it for either birthday or Christmas years ago on PlayStation 3. And I was like, oh, I played 2 and I played 3. Let me go back and play 1. I didn't play 1. 1 didn't have an autosave feature. You had to save it yourself. And I discovered that in one of the driving missions where it's a long extended mission. And then I died and it put me back at the beginning of the mission and I had lost like 15 minutes of progress. So that kind of turned me off of it.
Yeah, I would say that
turned me off of it real quick, but I can safely say if that was a turn off for you, don't worry, there's an autosave feature with the first one now.
Nice.
You will easily get north of 100 hours of playtime into that game. And that's what I got.
That's saying a lot.
I got 110 hours into playing the game last year, and I didn't even do everything. I did get the perfect ending, though. Just want to tout my own horn with that.
There you go.
And then for the end of year deals, now, folks, PlayStation has 809 items on sale.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through all of them, but these are some of the ones that jumped out to me. First of which, you've got Marvel's Spider-Man Game of the Year Edition. So that is the original game plus all of the DLC. Normally retails on their PlayStation Store $39.99. You get it for 50% off. It's only $19.99.
Wow.
Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition. So this is the original game plus the Frozen Wilds DLC that came out with it. Normally goes for $19.99. You can get it for 50% off, only $9.99.
Hey, no.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla Complete Edition. This is a game that I am currently playing. I've been playing for almost for 7 months. I've got north of 220 hours into this damn thing. It normally retails for $139.99. You can get it for $48.99, 65% off. This edition comes with, so it's the base game. You can PS4 and PS5. The Dawn of Ragnarok expansion, and then the Season Pass, which includes the Legend of Beowulf Quest, Wrath of the Druids expansion, and then the Siege of Paris expansion. So a whole lot of stuff. That's pretty much the game I've got. And like I said, I'm north of 220 hours into this thing. So you will get a lot. And that, again, that's with me not doing everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's you just doing the bare basics, right?
A little bit extra.
A little bit extra. Super crazy, though.
Yeah, but so you'll get a lot of playtime out of that. Next up, you have the Doom Eternal Deluxe Edition. Now, this is for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Normally, this is $69.99, $17.49. 75%.
17?
$17.49, 75% off. So this is Doom Eternal, obviously a great game. It is the deluxe edition. So you get Doom Eternal battle mode for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, Doom Eternal single player campaign, the Ancient Gods Part 1 campaign, the Ancient Gods Part 2 campaign, the Demonic Slayer skin, and then the classic weapon sound pack. Like I said, normally $69.99. This is going to retail you 75% off, $17.49.
Can't beat that. That's awesome.
Absolutely not. Then you've got the Far Cry 6 Standard Edition. This is for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Normally $59.99. 67% off for this one. $19.79.
Man, I'll take that.
You've got the Dragon Ball Z Kakarot Ultimate Edition, which this one normally retails you $94.99. 54% off, $47.49. So this is the game, the season pass, which there are, God, I want to say 3 or 4 DLCs with this. The music compilation pack and the Tau Pi Pillar. That's a mode of transportation around the thing. So like I said, 50% off. You can get that for $47.49. You've got the Resident Evil Triple Pack, which is Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5, and Resident Evil 6. Normally, that'll retail you $59.49, 67% off. You can get 3 games for $19.63.
That's not too shabby.
That's a steal.
I was going to say, that's a very good deal.
You want to talk about a good deal? Here's one for you. Uncharted, the Nathan Drake Collection. So this is Uncharted 1, Uncharted 2, and Uncharted 3. All phenomenal games. Play like a movie. Inspired the hit Sony film starring Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. Normally, this will retail you $19.99, 50% off. You can get 3 games for $9.99.
Wow.
And they're decent length games. You will get a lot of playtime with
I was going to say, they're definitely elaborate games.
You've got Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, which is a fantastic kind of like RPG, travel through time Dragon Ball game. Normally, this would retail you $59.99. How's 85% off sound?
You're really trying to load that game.
$8
That's what it sounds like to me.
$8.99.
Jesus.
And it is, of course, Xenoverse 2, so maybe you don't know what went on in Xenoverse 1. You were kind of confused. Oh, don't worry, folks. They've got Xenoverse 1 on sale. Xenoverse 1 will normally retail you $19.99. They're doing it for 85% off. $3.
$3?
$2.99. So
Jeez.
$3 after tax. But yeah, you can get that whole game, which is a decent length game, for $3. You've got the Assassin's Creed Mythology Pack. So this is Assassin's Creed Origins, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Normally, this will retail you $159.99. How's 70% off sound? $47.99.
Sounds like they're really trying to unload that game.
No, this is a good deal. I've played Origins and I've played Valhalla. They are both fantastic fucking games. But 3 games for $50. That's a steal.
It just sounds like a lot of the packaging they're doing, they're just really trying to unload.
Well, it's all digital stuff, so you're not buying physical copies.
Well, that's true.
But it's all fantastic AAA games.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not taking anything away of the game. And just for pairing all that together, it just kind of sounds a little crazy.
Also, you've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the Deluxe Edition. Maybe the Ultimate Edition's too much for you. The Deluxe Edition does include the game, the Ultimate Packs, which includes the Berserker Gear Pack, the Berserker Settlement Pack, and the Berserker Longship Pack. That'll normally retail you $79.99. 67% off. You can get it for $26.39. You've got the Assassin's Creed Legendary Collection. Folks, this is probably the biggest steal of the bunch thus far. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games with this pack.
Jesus.
Normally it retails you $199.99. How's 70% off sound? How's all those 6 games for the price of $59.99?
That's not too shabby.
Not at all. It is a fantastic steal. Definitely one you should check out. You've got Borderlands The Handsome Collection. So this is Borderlands 2 and Borderlands the pre-sequel. I played it myself. Fantastic game. Normally would retail you $39.99. 75% off. $9.99.
Can't beat that.
No, not at all. You've got the Jak and Daxter bundle, which is 4 different games from the Jak and Daxter franchise. It's Jak and Daxter 1, 2, 3, and then the kart game they did. Normally that would retail you at $39.99. 50% off, you can get it for $19.99. So if you're a fan of the Jak and Daxter franchise, haven't played it in a while, there you go. Saints Row the 3rd Remastered. I played Saints Row, have not played the remastered version, but I did enjoy the hell out of Saints Row 3. That's how I got into the Saints Row franchise. Normally that would retail you $39.99. They're doing it for 75% off, $9.99.
Wow.
Fantastic game. Cannot recommend it enough. Then you've got this is fucking amazing. You've got the EA Star Wars Triple Bundle. So this comes with Star Wars Battlefront 2, Jedi Knight Fallen Order, and then Star Wars Squadrons.
Not too shabby of a lineup right there.
No, not too shabby of a lineup at all. Normally this would be $89.99. 75% off. You can get those 3 great games for $22.49.
Damn.
You've got the Batman Arkham Knight Premium Edition. So this is the Premium Edition. Does not say what it comes with, but it's Premium Edition, so it's probably comes with all the DLC and such. Normally it would retail you $39.99. It has 85% off sound, $5.99.
Oh, for the last game.
Yeah.
The one that you're driving around the Batmobile.
Yeah.
That's not a bad deal. That really isn't for that game.
Not at all. Then you've got the Far Cry New Dawn Ultimate Edition. So this is the two Far Cry New Dawn games. Normally that would retail you $129.99. They're doing it for 75% off, folks. $32.49.
Wow.
For two games. And Far Cry games are not,
Yeah,
not short. They get you some length.
They're very lengthy. Yeah.
Then you've got another Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed Triple Pack. This is Black Flag, Unity, and Syndicate. So this is 3 games normally, $89.99. 75% off, $22.49. For 3 games. That's a hell of a steal.
That's a very good steal.
That's a hell of a steal. You've also got this one, personal favorite of mine, Lego The Hobbit. This is the... Oddly enough, this is only the first 2 games because they never did anything for the third movie because why?
Reasons.
Literally, spoiler alert, this game, the story on this one ends with Smaug flying out of the dwarves' home, and he's going to destroy Lake Town. They never did anything with the third one. Don't know why, but hey, you still get I've not 100% in that game, and I've got like 85 hours put into that thing.
Jesus.
It's insane. Normally, that would be $19.99. They're doing it for 75% off, so only $4.99. And lastly, and certainly not leastly, one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games. If you have not played this one, you should. It is Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered, and that is normally $39.99. They're doing it for 60% off. That is only $15.99.
There's a lot of great deals here. So,
Yeah.
Pat, I mean, I know there's a ton of them there. Like, if you had one, you're like go-to. Like, if you had to recommend one out of that bunch, what's the one you're recommending?
Probably the Assassin's Creed ones. Those are all great steals. But if you're not into Assassin's Creed, the Star Wars one is great. With the Battlefront 2, Jedi Knight Fallen Order, and Squadrons. I've played Jedi Knight Fallen Order and I've played Squadrons. Jedi Knight Fallen Order is the best Star Wars video game in decades. You know, since the Force Unleashed games, and Squadrons is fun. It's not a long.
I played a little bit of Squadrons.
It's not a long story, but it's fun. You know, it's if you're into like a flight simulator, but you like Star Wars, that's kind of right up your alley if you're into that thing. But no, I would say any of the Assassin's Creed games, because the Assassin's Creed games you will get a lot of time out of, and you will get your money's worth out of.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like it. Like I just have not had much time to invest in it.
Sure.
Because I know with Marvel's Midnight Suns coming, I'm trying to budget time to play that. I want to go get that. I keep getting stuff for Gotham Knights too. I think that's gone on sale, but I did not hear good things. But I have.
I heard that too.
I know. I gotta get it for cheap because I have all these codes.
Okay.
From being a DC Infinite Ultimate subscriber.
Right.
That like I need to start using, but I just haven't got around to it. Because you know why? I'm reading too much comics. But that's never a bad thing. So let's get into it. This week, you know, I feel like I say it all the time. It's a loaded week at the comic shops, digitally or in store. And I truly mean it this week because there is a lot of good stuff on Comixology Originals this week. Blood Oath #4 by Rob Hart, Alex Segura, and Joe Eisma. Now, Pad, this is a story, it might not be up your alley, but I do like the creativity here. It's a story that's taken place in Prohibition times.
Oh, okay.
So in New York.
Yep.
And it centers around a character by the name of Hazel, who's more or less involved in the illegal business of Prohibition, which is selling alcohol when it's banned. And unfortunately, her activities have drawn the eyes of a rival gang, so to speak, except this gang is vampires.
Oh.
And where this story has gone now in 4 issues, it really has been a fast-moving story. And there is a couple different moving parts that are happening here, but they've now gotten to the penultimate issue. It really has established the villain who has been working everybody behind the scenes a little bit and really made his presence felt. And where he's now going is going to set up a big battle at the end.
Okay.
And this is Jotham, who has been the one that attacked Hazel's farm, was responsible for it, has kidnapped Hazel's sister. So, I mean, a little bit of spoiler here, but nothing is going to throw you off the story. In this issue, though, he has now made a move that has drawn the attention of a lot of people and brought them all to set up for the final battle that's going to go down.
Okay.
It's a very good read. I highly recommend it if you're looking for something a little different. Because, like I say, Prohibition and vampires is something I didn't think about.
It's an odd combo.
It's an odd combo, but Hart and Segura are making it happen on here.
Right.
So I definitely like that. Also, speaking of Alex Segura, him and Monica Gallagher and George Combatis, I apologize if I'm butchering the name, are back with The Black Ghost Season 4, or Season 2, issue number 4. So this has been a story that has definitely gone in a little kind of crazy directions. It's Shamed the Devil. And this is one that the center character is a vigilante who's working behind the scenes, and there's now a major player that's kind of established themselves in the town of Creighton, and it's up to the Black Ghost to try stopping them. And this is kind of spiraled into a very mysterious thriller, and there's a lot of stuff that is happening here. But I tell you what, if you haven't read this series before, make sure to check it out on Comixology, and it's on print for season 1 via Dark Horse Comics.
Ooh.
It's well worth picking up. Like it kind of has like a Batman vibe to it a little bit, but not exactly.
Okay.
So it is kind of in the vigilante sense, but definitely a very, very interesting character in Lara Dominguez, who plays the Black Ghost. So a lot of stuff going on here. Definitely worth checking that out on Comixology Originals. And also coming out at the comic shops this week, you know we talk Massive Verse here all the time, and it's a double shot this week. My pick of the week is the Dead Lucky number 4, Melissa Flores, French Carmagno, has really made something special with this one. Now, if you've been sleeping on the Dead Lucky for whatever reason, I'm telling you right now, you need to make a point to catch up on this series, because every issue is really going some places, and this one had everything. So I am just going to tell you right now, if you haven't been picking up this series for whatever reason, I can't stress this enough, get to your local comic shops, get on Comixology, go get this series in your collection. And then when you get to the final page of this issue, holy crap, did something go down that threw me for a curveball? And obviously, San Francisco is not going to be the same when this is all said and done. Let me just tell you right now, but this is a phenomenal issue, amazing storytelling, fantastic art each and every time out. And I can't stress this enough. If you're not picking up the Dead Lucky, if you're not telling your friends about the Dead Lucky, you need to get doing it ASAP. Like, I know I'm kind of just yelling into the microphone a little bit, but the series is that damn good. Trust me, folks. I am not misleading you about this. I am not getting a paycheck from anybody about this. I'm telling you, the series is definitely kicking a lot of ass, and it should be in your collection. It's one of the best series of 2022 by far and away. Also, if we're talking Massiveverse, Rogue Sun, number 8. Ryan Parrott and Abel are back. Obviously, from last issue's Choose Your Own Adventure style, they're now kicking up the second story arc. A lot of things getting kind of a slow build going on. We're getting introduced to another villain that's going to have that has a very cool origin story happening in this issue, Pat.
Ooh.
One that you would dig. Like I say, Rogue Sun is something that it screams Padawan J.
This is true.
Yeah, so I know you've been reading a little bit about it. I know you got to get caught up on this.
Yes.
But this is one that is up your alley. And like I say, the stuff that Ryan Parrott and Abel have been doing in this book is some of the best stuff in comics. You definitely need to go check it out. I'm just showing Pat the cover art to this.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's
and,
nice.
Yeah. And like I say, they do kind of a little slow burn about the next villain. But I tell you what, the original story is very well done. It's going to be right up your alley. And like I say, if you haven't been picking up Rogue Sun either, you got to get on board with the Massiveverse. I'm telling you, everything they're doing over there has been big things. Supermassive 2 is scheduled to come out next year as well. We know Inferno Girl Red is coming out, I believe, in January. So if you're not on board now, listen, I don't know what else to tell you. Just get on board ASAP. Yeah. Now, there is a series out this week from Boom Studios 2. Pad will not read it because it's horror.
Absolutely not.
But I will show you the cover. The cover is by Tula Lote, who does Barnstormers for Comixology and Scott Snyder.
Okay.
How amazing is this artwork?
That's nice.
Yeah. And that is Damn Them All. So, obviously, this is issue number 2. Simon Spurrier and Charles Adlard, who you know from The Walking Dead, are really doing some kind of crazy stuff here with introducing Ellie Hawthorne, who has now been investigating the death of her uncle Alfie, and we're dealing with the supernatural. We're dealing with a lot of horror aspects. This book has been really, really good. This is not for everybody, though. I'm going to tell you right now. So if you're not into some very mature readers-esque stuff, this might not be up your alley, but I think it's a damn good read. I love what they're doing in this book. This is definitely going a lot of places. And like I say, if you're kind of on the fence about it, I would give it a shot. But I'll tell you what, if you're not super into like the supernatural and horror aspect, this might not be up your alley, but for me, I highly recommend it. I think they're doing a very cool job. 2 issues in, a very interesting story is getting played out, so you definitely want to keep your eyes on that. Over at DC Comics, though, there is a brand new Justice Society of America #1.
Ooh.
Jeff Johns and Michael Janet is reintroducing the JSA. Obviously, after seeing Black Adam, there is some interest.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Haven't got a chance to read the book. Heard a lot of good things about this, so I'm making a plan to do that as soon as we get off air today. So definitely make sure to go check that book out at the comic shops. And then from Marvel, they went back in the time machine a little bit. Planet Hulk World Breaker.
Oh, okay.
So I know our good friend Sean from the Caption Life, who you heard the promo in earlier, did a review for this. So definitely excited about checking this out. I mean, Planet Hulk was one of my favorite Hulk storylines. So kind of interesting to see what they're going to go back to the well and start dipping around in. So definitely want to make sure to go check that out. And we always say this each and every time when we're talking comics. Make sure to go out and support your local comic shops wherever you're at. And if you have a pull list, I will be screaming this the entire holiday season. Please make sure you pay it up. Do not leave that thing half paid or what such. Make sure you get your comic shops all squared up for the holiday season. It means a lot, so be a good person and do that. You're hearing me scream that right now. I'm just going to leave it at that. It's the holiday thing to do. For anything else that is the ODPH, though, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's all we got for this week. So for the one only Padawan J,
Thank you.
I'm your host, Kenan. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where I know